Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely profound. We're looking at the very real possibility that ancient spiritual architectures, the oldest traditions, sacred names, and geometries passed down through human history, might not just be metaphors. What if they're actually executable computer code? Think about it for a second. For thousands of years, there were truths considered so immense they couldn't even be spoken directly. They were totally unnameable, only pointed to through ritual, breath, and these incredibly careful arrangements of letters. And then, on the flip side, we have modern mechanical computation, which is rigorous, deterministic, and exact. So what happens when we bridge the two? What if the most ancient, unnameable truth is actually a verifiable deterministic algorithm? Okay, let's dive into this. Here is exactly how we'll unpack the unification of mysticism and mathematics today. 1. Ancient truths, modern code. 2. The 16-coin machine. 3. Constants from simple rules. 4. The helix of life. 5. Ancient geometry and gates. And finally, 6. Verifying the impossible. Section 1. Ancient truths, modern code. To really grasp this, we have to start with a crucial paradigm shift in how we process information. Traditional computation relies entirely on what we call sign value. Basically, a bit is a 0 or a 1, its meaning is assigned to that specific value, and identity is essentially just a hash of those values. But the Omicron model uses something called place value. In this system, a bit's meaning comes entirely from where it's positioned in a ring. Identity isn't a hash here. Identity is the structure itself. We're shifting from just reading static numbers to reading the dynamic structure of an arrangement. Section 2. The 16-coin machine. I want you to imagine the most basic form of perpetual movement and balance. If the fundamental pattern of reality is circulation, like an outgoing and a returning breath, what is the absolute simplest possible machine that can actually embody that? Well, the answer is a discrete ring, specifically a 16-bit ring. Picture a circle with 16 positions, kind of like 16 coins that can be flipped to heads or tails. This yields exactly 65,536 possible arrangements. And why 16? It perfectly matches the ancient Chinese binary system of the I Ching, the tetrad doubled. And from a modern perspective, it fits efficiently onto a single processor register. This tiny, bounded space, that is the entire universe for this computation. Now, this machine only performs 3 operations. First, it rotates, literally moving the entire pattern around the ring. Second, it uses XOR, a logical rule that simply flips a bit if 2 overlapping patterns are different. And third, it signs or observes, checking one specific bit for direction. That's it. No complex hidden variables, absolutely no stored knowledge. Every single piece of information here is computed on the fly through this simple, perpetual circulation. Out of those 16 positions we just talked about, one is special. It's called the Omicron. It acts as the sign bit. Not because of a hard-coded value, mind you, but purely because of its position. It decides the direction of the flow. If the breath is outgoing, it's OMI. If the breath is returning, it's IMO. It's essentially the phase coherence that governs the entire machine's output. Section 3. Constants from simple rules. Now, what's really interesting about this is that none of these fundamental mathematical constants are actually programmed into the machine. They emerge. Because the machine operates on a palindrome property, meaning its internal diagonal patterns perfectly balance and cancel out to 0, it possesses absolute mechanical stability. As the Omicron bit alternates, it generates a series that perfectly calculates pi. The golden ratio, phi, naturally arises from its periodic structure, and the Platonic solids project directly from its state space. These constants aren't stored anywhere. They are simply the emergent signature of perfect balance. 65,536. That's the total number of states in this 16-bit universe. From this strictly bounded, incredibly parsimonious space, the fundamental constants of mathematics and geometry just emerge naturally. It turns out the universe of this machine doesn't actually need infinite complexity to generate profound truths. Section 4. The helix of life. So what happens when you stretch the rotation of this flat ring over time? It creates a logarithmic helix that maps exactly, 1-to-1, to the biological structure of DNA. The 16-position ring acts as the helical backbone. The rotation is the helical twist. The XOR logic perfectly mirrors complementary base pairing, like adenine to thymine. The Omicron sign bit dictates the right-handed chirality, and that palindrome property we mentioned perfectly matches DNA's anti-parallel strands. Literally, the exact same object describes our digital model and the fundamental information-storing molecule of life. Section 5. Ancient geometry and dates. To maintain eternal stability without any drift, the machine uses a gate called the tetragrammatron. This draws its name from the ancient four-lettered sacred name representing the law of circulation, and tron for a self-operating machine. Essentially, it's an XR lock rooted in modern recursive waveform topology. It requires 4 specific diagonal patterns within the 16-bit space to perfectly cancel each other out to 0. Only when this exact topological balance is met does the gate open, allowing the recursive sequence to progress to the next layer of meaning. And this brilliantly illustrates how ancient texts were essentially describing topological structures. The Merkaba, often described as a divine chariot, maps perfectly to the rotating helix, moving through layers of computation. Metatron's cube, that's the geometric notation of these structural gates. And the 12 tribes, perfectly aligned with the kissing spheres problem in geometry. 12 distinct frequency spectra perfectly arranged around one central Omicron sphere. The ancient texts weren't just poetry, they were literally structural blueprints. Section 6. Verifying the impossible. In ancient traditions, Metatron was the heavenly scribe who recorded truth without altering a single word. Today, Metatron is not a mystical entity, it is a formal software proof. Specifically, Metatron's scroll is compiled in Cook 18.8, a rigorous proof assistant used by computer scientists to verify complex algorithms. It is an exact, unarguable notation that mechanically verifies every single claim we've just discussed about the Gnomonic Omicron model. This software proof guarantees absolute determinism, meaning the same input always yields the exact same output. It guarantees structural reversibility, so the output can perfectly recover the input. It proves that zero XOR palindrome closure that creates eternal stability. And it proves the finite completeness of the entire system. And honestly, the best part, it's completely open source. Anyone can run this code and verify this mathematical truth right on their own computer. 5040. This number represents 7 factorial, the mathematical symmetries of the Fano plane, and it is the exact size of the canonical receipt ring in this system. Just let the mathematical elegance of that closed loop sink in for a second. From 16 binary coins, a perfectly closed, eternally stable loop of 5,040 slots emerges, seamlessly binding geometry, biology, and ancient cosmology together in total mechanical perfection. So, we've unified the unnameable ancient breaths of OMI and EMO with strict, verifiable digital mechanics. The proof holds, the machine works, the sanctuary isn't a building, it's a structural machine that is open and completely verifiable on your own device. I highly encourage you to go explore the source material for this explainer and see the code for yourself. The real question is, what will you build with it?